Welcome to the Mojo Mundi podcast, where it's all about magic, manifesting, and movement. I'm Ginny Watts, the Dancing Witch. Thank you for joining me as we contemplate Conversing with Creator. Some of you may be wondering why I chose conversing rather than praying for the title of this episode. The term prayer is often associated with mainstream religions. For some who are called to earth-based practices, prayer can call up negative associations. While finding a neutral term for the episode is a reasonable motivation for using something other than prayer, there is a more fundamental purpose behind my choice of the word conversing. By the way, if you are comfortable with the term prayer, that doesn't mean this episode isn't for you. In fact, we will be examining prayer in just a moment. In comparison with the word prayer, conversing implies a deeper and broader concept of communicating in a free-flowing exchange with Deity. If we allow ourselves to expand our notion of Deity and our notion of how we communicate with Deity, we open up relationship with Deity on a grand scale, the scale of co-creation. The Latin root of the word prayer is precari, meaning to ask earnestly, beg, entreat. Over time, we have come to use the term primarily to represent entreaty or addressing God by writing or talking to ask for something. The idea of supplication or entreaty is different from connecting with Deity through a mutual exchange of communication. Marcia Linehan is a psychologist and treatment development researcher known for originating a very useful definition and theory of borderline personality disorder, also known as BPD, and a highly effective comprehensive multimodal treatment model for BPD and other mental disorders. The treatment model is called dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. Radical acceptance is a foundational element of DBT. Radical acceptance is congruent, though not synonymous, with the art of allowing. Linehan specifically utilizes prayer in the context of radical acceptance as an intervention to manage and tolerate distress. She differentiates the acceptance prayer from two other types of prayer. One of these alternatives is the why me prayer. I can be very adept at this prayer. It goes something like, "Oh Lord, why have you made my life so difficult? Why do other people have it so easy and everything I try to do seems to be blocked at every turn?" My favorite personal version of this prayer was, "Really? I guess I'm just the indentured servant of the universe." Yes, I actually shouted that to the heavens, driving home in the winter darkness after a particularly difficult couple of days at my therapy practice and with my family. If you are on board with the art of allowing, you may already see that one powerful pitfall of the why me prayer lies in its focus on lack, or what isn't wanted. This prayer also relinquishes any personal power or responsibility. At a deeper level, it creates a false sensation of separation from God. We are down here, tiny and weak, and God is up there, perhaps not even noticing our pain. The second type of prayer is the distress or deliverance prayer. In this prayer, we offer a desperate plea for deliverance from pain or difficulty, often accompanied by a bargain. It sounds like this: "God, please help me out of this mess. Please take away these painful circumstances. God, if you just bring a miracle to deliver me from this situation, I will never make this mistake again. I will pray for guidance before ever taking rash action. Please, please don't let me go under." This prayer also focuses on helplessness. While it acknowledges the contrast, the prayer is all about escape, and the bargaining that often accompanies the plea for relief again puts Deity out there somewhere. It paints Deity as someone who needs to be bribed in order to care for us. These prayers are understandable responses to contrast, to that painful gap between what we want and what we don't want. Unfortunately, these responses are more than ineffective. They are actually detrimental. Linehan points out that the why me prayer actually increases suffering. The pain of the contrast is difficult. When we add in the sense of being victimized by others and by God, we have added suffering to our pain. The deliverance prayer discourages being present to the present. Our focus is on escape, rather than on the contrast at hand. Our bargaining takes us further into the future by emphasizing what will happen after the pain is stopped by Goddess or Creator or Allah. Contrast is an invitation to listen to our emotional guidance system, to practice faith, to experience inspired unfolding, to learn what we do want, to develop a stronger sense of equanimity and temperance. If our focus is on escaping the contrast, we miss all these opportunities. It is understandable that we may experience our pain as victimization. In fact, the contrast may be an actual instance of victimization, though often it isn't. The desire for deliverance or escape from pain is a survival instinct. In both cases, however, we are seeking to control things we don't have control over. We are reliving something that has already happened in an attempt to stop it from happening or happening again, or we are asking for reality to be different than it is. There is another possibility. Linehan describes another type of prayer, the acceptance prayer. The Serenity Prayer, popular in 12-step programs designed to address addictions, is an example of an acceptance prayer. In the acceptance prayer, we acknowledge the contrast, as well as the emotional and/or physical pain that we feel. We recognize what we do have control over and what we don't have control over. We ask in a way that reflects our awareness that Creator is present to our suffering and is working with us to co-create something new and less painful. It has a very different feel and potential for a very different outcome. Acceptance, however, is not the same as allowing. When we move into the art of allowing, we move from prayer to conversation. The difference may appear too subtle to be worth bothering with. I assure you, it isn't. When we converse with Deity, we are acknowledging that our relationship is collaborative rather than hierarchical. This may sound heretical, but it isn't. Rather, this is a description of how Creator has arranged the universe. If we ignore the message of co-creating, we are missing out on the most magical, mind-blowing gift of moving into physical existence. Creator is dwelling within us, letting us drive our part of the creation process by design, like an elaborate bicycle built for two, except way more complex. If that isn't grace, I don't know what is. This unstinting generosity allows us to be our whole selves with a capital S, while in physical form. It is the place where we are both separate from and within the One, simultaneously. When we converse with God about our experience, we know that God is experiencing through us and with us. Rather than skirting the experience or intensifying the experience, we have the opportunity to be present to it and allow it to deepen our wisdom and understanding. We can do this because we are not alone. Goddess, Allah, the law of nature, or of science is with us, within and all around. Before we explore what the conversation might sound like, I want to address submission in the context of this conversation. The Bible, the Quran, the Torah specifically address submission to God or to the laws of God. I think many scientists and naturalists view existence as a submission to the laws of nature or the precepts of science. Submission is very different than allowing. Submission implies a hierarchy of power and an acting opposite to one's own will in response to the will of another. Contrast happens as part of creation. There are qualities of our physical world that are standard or exist with consistency. That is not because of the will of science or God. It is how creation has unfolded thus far. If we tell ourselves, even unconsciously or subconsciously, that we are submitting in response to contrast, we have closed our eyes to collaboration with Deity. We are hampering our ability to create through the contrast. Stepping into contrast is not submission, but rather observation and honoring of the complex beauty and challenge of reality. How do we hold a collaborative conversation with Creator? It is most effective to begin with honesty. As I have explored my interactions with my deities, I have discovered how much I lead from my child self. It is such a habit to start from a place of where I think I ought to be starting, or from a place of old habits of why me or save me. The ought is actually the most subversive of the three for me because I think I'm being in right relation. I think I'm doing the good thing. The wonderful nature of our relationship with Goddess is that she knows all of this already. I can begin wherever I am and allow my awareness of the totality of my experience to unfurl in the course of the conversation. Sometimes this conversation may take a couple hours. Often it takes days or months or years. In fact, I think it always takes days and months and years because awareness and wisdom are always unfolding. Because experiences are the multiple facets of basic truths about existence in physical form that appear before us over and over again. We begin then exactly where we are, as we come into awareness of contrast, or of manifesting. Perhaps the difference in a conversation versus a supplication is in our view of the listener, of Deity, Creator. When we spill our guts, shed our tears, shout our rage, we are telling our story to someone who already knows it. We are speaking to our own reflection in the eyes of God. We are listening to ourselves with Creator's ears. We are the observer and the observed. The communication is not a prescribed formality. Neither is it a perfunctory offloading of distress. Allowing is an ongoing exchange in purposeful presence. We allow that the conversation will unfold in its own time. What an act of faith and devotion on our part to breathe and be present in deep distress. It reminds me of childbirth. It is important to honor the abiding love that we express when we agree to come into physical existence, step into contrast, and choose to allow the process to unfold. It may appear that we don't have a choice, but that isn't the case. When we struggle against contrast, we don't get what we deserve. We actually co-create something different than when we practice the art of allowing. We choose a different process, and then we have an opportunity to observe the results. If we are attending, we realize this is all part of the conversation. Deity communicates a response to us through subsequent happenings. Our replies further the conversation, and so on. Each exchange provides opportunities for us to continually tune our frequency to enrich or muddy the communications and the outcomes. Here is a summary of one of my latest exchanges with Deity. Recently, some of those who regularly join my soul-free dance sessions expressed some dissatisfaction about recent soundscapes I had created. Initially, I felt an urge to explain my process. I chose instead to open up to their concerns as well as others in our group who were happy with the soundscapes. I was able to practice changing my perspective from focus on the other to approaching the conversation as communication from creation itself. I allowed the conversation to percolate, and the next morning I sat in conscious dialogue with my deities about the situation. I could recognize my resistance to changing my process, as well as the valid and differing responses of these soulful dancers. I expressed my own defensiveness and my understanding. Then I relaxed and breathed. I moved on to explore other areas of my life that I am struggling with, particularly around time and energy. Suddenly, I literally saw the images of possibilities, alternative options, and interconnections that encompassed both the questions about the soundscapes and my struggles with energy and time. I came to an option that I wanted to explore and presented it to the soul-free dancers at our next session. The conversation is ongoing and evolving, and it has opened up my awareness of how I get in my own way and of how far I have come in stepping into allowing. It has given me a clear picture of the loving, wise, and diverse community of which I am a part. It has helped me to be present to the other without losing presence to myself and to Creator. Which brings me to one last boon of conversing with God rather than praying to God. If it is true that Deity is within us and letting us drive our part of the co-creation, then that is true for everyone and everything around us. We are simultaneously separate from and within the One. And by we, I mean everything in creation. When we converse with Deity, we are conversing with all that is. And by reflection, each time we are in conversation with some other in physical form, we are conversing with Deity. Understanding this strange and beautiful truth helps me to reach for love in all my interactions, with myself, with the other, with the environment, with my goddesses and gods. It is a lot, and it is so worth it. I am delighted to have you as a listener. You are part of my creative process and the tapestry of my co-creations. I invite you to share your views on the conversation with Creator. Connect with me via my website or email or on Facebook at Caravan of Dreams MT. Our music is used by permission of the artist, Sean Phoenix. Thank you, Sean. And thank you to Bozeman Public Library for the Workbench Sound Studio located in beautiful downtown Bozeman, Montana. If you would like to learn more about allowing and how to find your unique style of manifesting, please visit my website, caravanofdreamsmt.com, or email me at dancingwitchmt@gmail.com. This is Ginny Watts, the Dancing Witch. Till next time, blessed be.